welcome to our Crazy Life Scotland. My name's Fiona and today I'm going to be using this silicone mould with resin for the first time. I got this recently from Temu, of course, because that's where I get all my moulds. I love Temu moulds, and there will always be a link in my description boxes of all my videos, which is an affiliate link, and if you order on Temu through that, I get a little bit of commission, but it doesn't cost you any more, so feel free to use that. Anyway, I've been looking forward to doing this, so I thought I would do it today. And I want to do something different for each of the pumpkins. If you can see it, we've got like a smiley one up there, we've got a bit of a grumpy one there, and we've got a spooky one down there. So what I want to do is I want separate things in each pumpkin so that you can see that they're separate. And in order to do that, I'm going to have to do 3 pours. So for anyone who's new to resin, I know a lot of my viewers are brand new to resin. I just want to explain what I mean by that. So if, for example, I wanted to do a yellow one, an orange one and a red one, if I was to pour yellow resin in there, then pour orange resin in there straight away and red resin in there straight away, what would happen is, because it's fluid, it'll all start sort of merging into each other, which can be a cool effect if that's what you're going for. But in this case, I want a clear definition between them all. So to stop that from happening, I am going to pour my first pumpkin, and I'm going to put the resin just to where the crease is at the bottom there. And then I'm going to put it on my heat mat for a couple of hours. So it doesn't need to be fully cured, but it needs to be cured enough that the resin that I'm going to put in here isn't going to mix in with that one. And then once I've poured the resin in this one, I'll probably leave it overnight and then pour the last one. So that is the plan. Now, what I want to do in the first one is I want to leave the resin clear but put in some of these Halloween sequins. And I got these, they're actually cake sprinkles for home baking, and I thought they would be quite smart in it. I've seen other people using sprinkles in resin, but I've never tried it before, so I thought I would give that a go. Now, what I am going to do is I am going to let the resin sit once it's mixed for maybe 15-20 minutes so that it starts to go quite thick, because if I added it straight away, all of the sprinkles and the sequins and everything would float. Obviously it would be sitting this way, so it would all fall to the bottom, and it would mean that there would be like a big layer there and then the rest would be clear, and I don't want that. So I am going to let it sit for a wee while so it's nice and thick, and hopefully I will be able to get more definition and get more of the sprinkles and sequins in different areas. I'm not sure how it'll work. It'll be the first time I've done it. I am very inexperienced still with resin, and a lot of things that I do are experiments, but we learn together whether it works or not. At this point though, I do want to give a big shout out to a special channel, which is Marcy's Artsy Fartsy Creations. Quite a mouthful, but it's a fantastic channel. If you're into resin, please go and watch her. She's not got a lot of subscribers just now. She's new to YouTube, but she is very experienced with resin, and I am learning so much from her. She's given me great tips in the comments of these videos, and just watching her channel, I get so many good ideas and so many tips. So if you're interested in resin at all, please go over and check out her channel. Give her a subscribe and show her some YouTube love to get her channel growing. So yeah, thank you very much for all the help and tips that you give me. I will link her channel in the description below. Right, so I'm going to go now. I'm going to mix up the resin and I'm going to let it sit, and then I'll come back to you. Voiceover Fiona now, because I've got my PPE on. I have mixed up my resin and let it sit for about 20 minutes, and it's a little bit thick, but I'm too impatient to wait any longer. So I'm leaving my resin clear, but I'm going to add some of these sprinkles. I love them all. Just little balls, little witches, little skulls, very cool. So I am going to just take some out just now to have a look to see what they are. So it's hard to see what these are, but they're actually little witches flying on broomsticks. There's some purple ones and some green ones. So I'm just picking up some random ones and putting them in my resin. At this point I was a little bit worried. I didn't know if the dye was going to come off them and start going through the resin, but it didn't. It was fine. So I'm having a look to see what else I want to use. And I'm going in with some of the green balls first of all. And then I think, oh, skull and crossbones, good idea. I had got fed up of just putting them out on the mat at this point. I thought just tip them in. Much quicker, much easier, and much more random. Some purple balls now, I think. I do like the little balls, they're quite cute. And I'm going to give it a mix together to see what I think of it. And I'm mixing slowly and carefully to make sure I don't add too many bubbles. And I'm just sort of taking it out, having a look. Do I need some more? I'm happy with the sprinkles, so it's time to go in with this Halloween concoction of sequins and things. I think it was Amazon that I got this. I will link it for you if you're interested. And of course the packet keeps sticking to my gloves, which isn't helpful. And that's a cat going in. And a little star. Again, I'm trying to be gentle and then I think forget it. Just grab handfuls and randomly put it in. That's the way to do it. So I generally just keep grabbing bits and adding bits. The big bit that says Happy Halloween I don't want to put in there because I think it would be too big for that area, but I do have an idea for it for later on. So now I'm using my sticky resin stir stick to pick up some of the smaller bits, the little stars and things. Anyway, you get the idea of what I'm doing. I will skip to the mixing bit. Okay, I'm going to give this a stir round and see what I think. Right, I think I'm happy with what's in there now. So I will give it one more little stir. And I'm checking the consistency as I go. I don't want it to be too thick, but I want it to be thick enough that things kind of stay where I want them. And in we go with the pour. Just checking my mould is still clean. And I am pouring it in. Ooh, look at all the gloopy bits going in. Spooky! I decided it would be easier to use my stir stick to make sure that the sequins go in because of course they've all fallen to the bottom of the mixing cup. That should have told me something, but it didn't. Sorry you're out of shot there, I was just looking at it, I was bringing it up to eye level to see if it was full enough. And I decided that it was and just gave it a bit of a tap to make sure everything gets into all the little bits where the eyes and mouth are and nose and things. Once I've given it a tap, I decide that there is room for just a little bit more resin. So I slowly pour it in, I don't want to go too fast. Give it another little squeeze. And a little bit of a tap to make sure that it's all in. Another squeeze. And I put that to the side to let any bubbles and things settle. I've got a bit of spare resin, so I get out this mould, which was also from Temu. It's meant to be a nice cube mould, but I think this might be perfect. I don't know what the shapes of the faces and things are. It's hard to tell the detail in the mould. So I thought if I just do a random pour with them, I'll be able to see what the faces are, and it'll make it easier in the future if I want to make other ones. So I'm basically just splitting the resin that I've got between a couple of them, and it's not filling them right up, but that's fine because I know that I'm going to be using more resin later and I'll be able to use the spare resin in the rest of it. So I think it's 2 that I divide these up with by. There we go. Need to scrape it all out, don't waste resin, it's expensive stuff. Then I just give it a little bit of a prod with my stir stick to make sure that all the bits are into all the little holes and things. Give it a little tap to help it along, bring any air bubbles to the top, and I think that is us with this. I'm about to do something extremely silly here, but I thought I would leave it in so you can learn from my mistakes. I quite often use a long neck torch to pop bubbles, and I think, yeah, that'll get rid of the surface bubbles in here. I don't think about the fact that I'm having to put the torch inside the silicone mould. As soon as I did it, I was like, no, don't do that, you'll melt the mould. So I do the sensible thing instead and spritz it with some isopropyl alcohol. That helps with the bubbles. About half an hour later, I add some more sprinkles and sequins, just because it will be thicker now and hopefully they won't sink as much as they already have. Right, a few hours later now, it's not fully cured, but it's definitely not very squidgy anymore, so I think we're ready to go in with our next lot of resin. I've already mixed up my resin. That's me just checking to see, yeah, it's still a little bit squidgy, which is good. I'm ready to go. Before I add anything else, I can see there's some of the little balls and things on the side of the mould, so I just scrape them out to make sure that they don't interfere with our next layer. I'm happy that my mould is clean now, so I'm going to mix up the resin. In this one, I'm going to use this tangerine mica powder. So again, I'm going to add a spoonful maybe. No, this is me we're talking about. I just open the packet and dunk it in. No point in giving yourself more cleanup. And I think that looks probably about right. I'm going to give that a stir and see how it looks. Again, stirring relatively slowly, scraping the sides. Try to make sure there's not any more bubbles introduced than there has to be. After a thorough mix, I just check the colour and I think, yeah, I quite like the way that's looking. But it's me we're talking about. Fiona can't do anything without glitter. So I'm using this glitter again that I got from the Works. It was £1 for the bottle and it is fab stuff. Really good, and I love the spout. It doesn't get everywhere. So of course I'm very liberal with it. Add quite a bit and then give it a good stir. That's looking pretty good, but time for some different glitter. This one is slightly chunkier and it's quite luminous, as you can see there. It's a little bit holographic. It would have been from Temu, of course it would. Let's add a little bit more. Can never get too much glitter. Another good stir. Then I have a different glitter again. This one's even coarser. I do like having different textures in my resin and slightly different colours, like different shades of the same colour. So I think the 3 different glitters together, along with the mica powder, should give quite a nice effect. Let's add some more. How's that looking? It's looking mighty good. Okay, it's time to go in with the pour. Slowly and gently does it, and I want to make sure that I don't fill too much, just up to the little crease where that pumpkin stops. Turn it round, give it a bit of a squish, make sure it's getting into all the little areas that we want it to get into. A little tap, watch out for bubbles, and put it to the side. I took it over to my heat mat and gave it a little spritz with alcohol off camera, just for the bubbles. And then here is my skull mould again. That's cured enough for me to pour another layer in. But I think, no, I've got quite a bit of resin here. I'm going to pour it into different ones. I don't fill it all the way because I think it would be nice to have it in 2 colours, the same as the top ones. So these 2 I kind of pour halfway, and then I think, right, I've still got a bit left. So I decide to pour this one right up to the top, I believe. I fill it right up. Perfect amount to fill it right up. But of course I do scrape out all the excess because you have to. You just have to. A little spritz with alcohol to get rid of any surface bubbles. And that is us until tomorrow. I'll see you then. Good morning. It is now the next day and I'm just about to mix up my resin. And I wanted to come on and have a chat with you because I didn't mention yesterday, it is Let's Resin resin that I'm using. I had been having issues with the J Diction one giving bubbles. And I don't know if it was my fault or the resin's fault. So this time I got Let's Resin to see if there is much difference. And if not, it's definitely my fault. But I mentioned, I think at the start of this video, about the channel Marcy's Artsy, Fartsy Creations. And she gave me a really good tip about leaving the resin in their separate parts on a heating mat for a wee while before mixing. And that's definitely helped. I've noticed that when I am actually going to mix it together, there's no bubbles in the little containers. So that is an excellent tip that I got from her. So I don't know, maybe everybody else already knows that. I am quite inexperienced still at resin. So yeah, if you've not tried that before, definitely do. Now, I was going to make up 100 mils. That's why you saw the 250 mils there. This is the Let's Resin is 1:1 by volume rather than weight. So I did have 50 mils of A and 50 mils of B, and then I looked at the size of the pumpkin and thought, maybe not. So I decided to put an extra 30 mils of each in. So they've all been sitting on the heating mat, but I just wanted to come on and tell you that. So I'm going to pause you just now, mix this up because nobody wants to watch me mixing for 5 minutes. And then I will come back to you and let you know what we're going to do. Right, what we've made so far is fully cured, and I'm just having a little look in the mould to see how it's looking at the moment. And yeah, it looks like resin in the mould. There is a little bit of glitter in the inside, and I do sort of dump that out. I'm just showing you there that the bottom one I want to be red. And I had the idea of using this Happy Halloween on the edge of the mould, like where his face is, so that it would say Happy Halloween. And I wanted to put that on the mould with some clear UV resin so that it doesn't get lost in the colour. And so I decided to take some UV resin, and this is J Diction because that's my favourite UV resin by far. So I am going to take that and just put a little bit on the mould where I want the Happy Halloween to stick. Then I pick up the Happy Halloween and make sure that it's the right way up. And I pop it in where I want it to go, just where I put the resin. At this point, I'm realising, this maybe isn't as easy as it seemed in my head. But I keep sort of fiddling about with it for a little while and think, yeah, it's going to work. Of course it is. Let me turn it round and see if it's in the right position. Yeah, that's looking not too bad. And I'm thinking because it's a clear mould, I'll be able to start curing it from the outside first. And it will stick enough for me to be able to turn it over. And then I think, no, turn it over first. I've got my UV torch there ready to go, ready to cure it. But will that sequin stay where I want it? No, it won't. So I think just abandon that idea, feeling that's not going to happen. So I want to clean out the mould where I had put the UV resin so that it's not mixing with the epoxy. I don't know if it would do any harm or not, but I don't want to take the chance at this time because I've already invested a fair bit of resin in this mould. So I just give it a good clean out with a baby wipe, make sure it's nice and clean, and I think, right, okay, I can do something with a Happy Halloween later on. So I take a clean mixing cup, make sure there's no hairs on it. I pour some of the clear mixed resin into it. And because it's the bottom one again, I decide I don't need to leave it to sit or anything. I'm not putting sequins or things like that in. So I pretty much fill up that little cup. That's a 100ml cup. Then I take my red mica powder, and instead of using a spoon, I make a mess. Look at the state of the place. I'll never learn. I will never learn. What a mess. I ended up covered in red mica powder for hours after that. Thankfully it wasn't too much in the cup. I gave it a good mix around and I was happy with the amount that was in there, but my God, there was mica powder everywhere. So don't do what I do. Be sensible and use a little spoon or a scoop or something to put it in. It's much easier to clean up than your whole mat and your arms and everything else. So I'm just giving it a nice gentle stir around. Again, I don't want to introduce bubbles. Look at the state of my glove as well. It's all over my glove. Spilt it on my glove. I spilt it on the mat. I was watching YouTube as I was stirring, so I didn't even realise when I was stirring it, when I was spilling it. Yeah. I can multitask at some things, but I maybe shouldn't then. Look, I had just spilt it again over the edge there and didn't even realise. What am I like? So after mixing for a few minutes, I'm quite happy with the colour with the mica. But of course, I have to add glitter, don't I? I can't not add glitter. So here it is, my nice handy dandy massive big tub of red glitter, because I do a lot of Christmas projects, so I use a lot of that stuff. And again, I do make a bit of a mess, but not quite as much as I did with the mica powder. I don't go OTT with it just now because I have got a fair amount of mica powder in there. So I give it a little stir and then have a look to see what I think. Definitely room for more glitter, I think. There we go, a little bit more. At least I'm using the small holes. Sometimes I take the lid off and just dunk it in. Give it another little stir. I'm happy with the colour now. So I bring my mould over and get ready to start pouring. In it goes. And of course I quickly realise that there's not enough. Not enough resin there, Fiona. You need to add some more of your clear and mix it up again. So I do that off camera just so that you're not completely bored watching me mixing all day. So I'll come back to you once I've mixed up the rest of my resin. I decide to use just what's left in the tub because there's still a big space in the pumpkin. So I use all of the mixed resin that I've got. I scrape it all into the mixing cup, add more mica, add more glitter, and then I'll come back to you. Here I am again, ready to go. And this is everything that I've got left of the resin. And is it enough? No, of course it's not, Fiona. Why would it be? You never do things by halves. I do scrape it out though, just to make sure I get all the little bits. And at this point I'm thinking, do I mix up more resin right now, or do I wait for a wee while and then make it into like another layer? And I decide, yeah, that might be quite nice actually. I'm not going to mix up more resin just now. I'm going to let this partly cure, then mix up more resin and do a slightly different colour. So I scraped it all out there. I don't know if I show you how much space there is. Probably not. Too busy trying to get the dog hairs out. I decide here that I'm going to add some of these spiders that I got from Temu. And I know that it's opaque and they might not be seen very well, but I think I've got a massive pack of them anyway. I'm going to give it a go. If some of them do stick to the sides, it might be quite cool. And again, Fiona adds way too much. Now I'm going to give them a little bit of a stir into the resin. I don't want to stir it completely. I'm just going to make sure that they're all coated in resin and they can land where they want to land. And it will be random that way, rather than it looking too, sticking each one to the side of the mould and it being too uniform. I just want it to be random. And that's everything for now. I put it over onto my heat mat for a couple of hours and give it a little spritz with alcohol. A couple of hours later, please excuse the lighting, I forgot to put my ring light on, and I have mixed up some more resin, and I think, what am I going to do with it this time? So I pour it into a clean silicone cup, and I take this little bottle of red pigment. It's not a paste, but it's not an alcohol ink, it's somewhere in between. And I know that it's quite strong, so I literally give it one drop because I don't want it to be fully opaque. So 1 drop, in it goes, and you'll see when I mix it just how far it actually goes. So my resin is fairly coloured just with that 1 drop. And I think, right, that's enough of that because I want to be able to see through it slightly. And I decide that I'm going to add some glitter now, of course. In it goes. Give it a good mix and check the colour and decide what I want to do next. And of course that decision is more glitter. I love blinging glitter. So I add a fair bit and then I give it another stir. And that is looking more like it. That's how I want it to be. Perfect. This time I decide to add the spiders before I pour it into the mould, and yes, half the packet goes in my cup. Typical Fiona. So I go on a little fishing expedition to try to take some of the spiders out and just pop them on my mat because I don't want too many in there. Once I've taken about half of them out, I give it a stir round, and I think if there's room for more, I can always use the ones that I've just taken out. So I've poured some into my mould, and I'm just having a wee look at the placement of the spiders, and I think good, they're kind of going their own place, quite random, they're not all clumped in one bit. So I add some more. And this time I try to add more resin and less spiders. Then I use my stirring stick just to make sure that they're all covered with the resin. And I decide there's room for a little bit more, so I just pour more resin in just to fill the mould up. Oh, a little plop of a spider there. And yeah, that's the mould full. I give it a bit of a squish and then move it to the side because I've still got some resin left. So I'm going to go into my little skulls now. So the top two was the clear with the sprinkles, and I only filled them halfway up. So I'm filling the rest of the mould with the red glitter and spiders. And I decide to do the same with the others as well. Whoa, quite a few spiders went in there. Maybe take some of those out, Fiona. So I just used my stirring stick to take some of them out. It wasn't as easy as you would think, to be fair. And what I do is I decide the spiders that are, the too many spiders that are in there can be put in the other ones that didn't get quite as many when I was pouring. And I've still got some left, so I am going to make sure that I'm evenly distributing it all with the spiders and that I'm filling up all of the moulds to the top. Just checking they're all full, and I've got a fair spider to resin ratio in them all. It's took me about 3 takes to actually say that. And I've got a tiny wee bit left, and I think, well, the other skull on the bottom was pretty much full, but there's room for a little bit of red glitter and a spider just to make them all the same at the back. So I just add a little touch in there, and that is it. Time to put them aside, give them a spritz of alcohol, and I will see you in the morning. Good morning. It is now my favourite time again. It's unmoulding time. Yay, love it. I think I'll start with the little extras that I wasn't really expecting to do, but I'm quite glad that I did. Right, I'm just going to go for it. Well, I'll take them all out and then we'll turn them out round one at a time. I've never used this mould before, so I don't know what each one actually looks like. So these were just using leftover resin from the pumpkin. So they're all, those 2 and those 3 will be similar colour-wise, but hopefully their faces will be different. Right, let's have a look. Oh! Right, well, you can't really see his face for sprinkles, but if I polish him up with a little bit of UV resin, and then I might actually paint in some definition, and then we'll see what he looks like. This one, oh, that's a bit better. Oh, his nose is a bit, oh no it's not, it looks like his nose is missing. It's not, it's just because there's sprinkles there and not there. Oh, look at the witch in his eye. Not bad. Bit of overport. Ooh, now I like him. That orange glitter is lovely, isn't it? I do like him, and I like the spiders on his back. He's my favourite so far. Oh, he's okay. He's got a patch on his eye there. I think he's a pirate skull. Yeah, he's okay. And his nose is inverted, it's meant to be. And finally, no, see these two, I'm not overly keen on. But it's the first time I've done them and now I know what they look like. I'll add some definition, and if I've got time to do it today, I'll put it in at the end of this video, and if not, I'll show you in a different video. Right, so that's them. Let's have a look at the main deal. That's overpour, that isn't inside. Right, so I've got no idea how easy this is going to be to get out. We will go for it and see what happens. Right, try and break the seal all the way around it. Again, always be careful in case you've got sharp edges here. They're not too bad actually. Right, the seal is broken. Let's see if I'm going to need to add water or if I can just... Oh, it's coming out dead easy. Oh, I like that. Oh, right, I don't want to reveal just now. I'll sort my mould. Oh, pop. Oh, pop. So, this is what it looks like from the back. I like that it's a shiny mould. You can really tell the difference. And when I first started resin, I was like, how do you know it's going to be shiny or it's going to be dull? The way you can tell is, this mould in there is matte. It's not got a shiny finish in there, so they're not going to have a shiny finish. This one is shiny inside, so it's a shiny. And I think it's whatever they use to make the mould. If it's a shiny object they use to make it, the mould's shiny. And if it's a dull, a matte thing that they use to make it, it will be matte, I think. Don't take my word for it. Anyway, let's get back to this. We're just going to turn it around and see. Oh, look at the wee stem. Yay. Ready. Steady. Oh. Now, as we can see, all of the sprinkles and things did fall right down to the top, even though I went back in about half an hour later and added more to try to get them to, you can see a wee bit there. Once it was thicker, I did try adding more, but it basically all went there. So I need to know now that if I am going to do something like that, I'll need to pretty much fill it with the filling, or else it is just going to go to the bottom. This was just the orange glitter, which I like. And this one here started off with the red glitter, and then I ran out. That was the mica red, and I did put spiders in there, and you can just see it's darker there, and that's where all the spiders have gone. And because I ran out, I let it cure for a wee while, and then I went in with a little bit of pigment paste and red glitter and spiders again, and I thought you would see the spiders more because it was more translucent, but again, they've all just fallen against there. So yeah, they didn't really, I mean, you can see them a little bit if you stare, but in general, I think once I paint up their eyes and things, well, it's a wee bit sticky there still. Once I paint up their eyes and things, I think it's going to look brilliant. And of course, I could have put a light in there so that the top one lit up, but I decided not to this time. So yeah, I think it's a very cute pumpkin mould, and you can see quite a few micro bubbles in the top one. Not as bad as the Jade Diction, but I think that's probably because I was messing about adding things to it and that sort of thing. So yeah, I will finish these off and then put them in at the end if I've got time, and if not, I will show you in my next one. I hope you have enjoyed this video and I hope you've learned something. I love this community, we can all learn together. And again, thanks to Marcy's Artsy Fartsy Creations for all the help she's given me. It's been really good. Please go over and show her some YouTube love. I will link her channel for you. And yeah, if you've enjoyed it, please hit the thumbs up button. Talk to me in the comments below. If you've got any hints and tips, I'm always happy to hear them. And subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in our next one. Thanks everyone. Bye. So here is the pumpkin all finished off. I still don't like that top one. I wish I hadn't done that, but you live and learn. And yeah, I think they look okay once they're all highlighted and things. I'll show you the back. So I didn't bother going through the creases of the pumpkin to highlight them, I just left them. You can see some of the spiders and the red, but it just looks dirty, I think, rather than like spiders. So that is that one, and let's have a look at our little skulls. Now, I didn't put UV resin on him. I left him matte, just so that you can kind of see the difference. That one there's got UV resin on it, so that one's a bit shinier now than it was. So yeah, they're okay. I think definitely I'm better at colouring the mould first rather than doing the details after it. Their teeth are shocking, but I've not got a decent white paint. So, but yeah, you get the idea anyway of what they could look like. So that is that.